This is Real Oregon Lifestyle with Andrea Fay and Jenn Fiddler, two licensed real estate brokers who share their love of all things Oregon.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Oregon Lifestyle. I'm Andrea Fay.
And I'm Jenn Fiddler.
And we have with us today Breanna Stephens, who will be joining us in just a second. First, we're going to do a quick real estate market update. Jenn, do you want to go and do the Portland update real quick?
Yeah, Portland continues to remain a strong seller's market. It really hasn't changed much from the last few times that we've talked about it. Inventory's low, average prices are up, and houses continue to move very quickly. So not a lot of an update other than that.
Not too much of an update for us here in the Valley as well. I looked at everything. We're at about 2 months inventory. So that means if no houses came to the market, we would have 2 months to sell everything at the rate that we're selling. Benton County, we're looking at about $417 for your average sales price. Lynn County, we're looking at about $314. And the average days on market, both of them are pretty close, about 88 to 90 days on market. So that means from start to finish, the second you put the house on the market to closing, that's how long it's taken these days.
That's interesting. So our average days on market, which we talked about in the last podcast up in our area, was around 42. Is there an appraisal issue, or what takes longer down here?
I think some of it has to do with rural property and the fact that, if you have a little bit more acreage, we have more property that I think has a little bit more acreage to it. And we're having trouble with larger properties finding appraisers that actually want to do them because they take more time. And so I think that extends some of the appraisal times.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So other than that, it's the same thing. Seller's market, it's really challenging for buyers right now. But of course, if they're working with great agents like Jenn and I, then they're in great hands. So, but anyway, we're going to move forward and move on to a very fun topic. Breanna Stephens Breanna, what is the name of your HR consulting business?
Yeah, so it is Breanna Stephens HR Consulting.
Awesome. Breanna is coming with to us today to share a really fun story about how she and her husband have paid off a bunch of debt, and that has allowed her to start her own business, which is super exciting. Andy, go ahead and play that video. We're going to share a video that Breanna and Caleb, her husband, have recently shared about their journey. Hang on just a second. Our audio is having trouble, so we'll get that real quick.
I'm Caleb. This is Breanna, and we're from Albany, Oregon.
We're getting ready to pay off our last student loan, which is $1,600, and that means we have paid off $51,000 in 17 months. You ready?
Three, two, one. We're debt free!
That is awesome.
I'm Caleb. This is
So exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
That is something that, I think that a lot of people want to strive for. And I know my husband and I are working on it right now. We're working towards becoming debt-free as well. And I think it's extremely inspiring that you guys have been able to do that yourselves. And that's a lot of money to pay off in a very short amount of time. Tell me a little bit more about what made you guys decide that you want to become debt-free?
Yeah, so that video, that was a baby video of us. It was almost, I think I said it was 8 years, but I think it was more like 6.5 years. We started that journey about 8 years ago, but then it took a year and a half to pay everything off. And basically what happened, typical young couple, we got married, we immediately bought a house. Somehow we got lucky or, we were dumb. We couldn't afford to buy a house, but we just somehow got lucky and got a really super good deal on a house. It was a foreclosure. Same house, different color on the walls, basically, from what you saw in the video. We had purchased Cobra Mustang. Caleb's really into cars. We had almost $30,000 in student loan debt between the two of us. Everybody pushed as soon as you graduate, you got to start building your credit. And so I went out and, as a 20-year-old kid, bought a bunch of jewelry on a Fred Meyer credit card that I very clearly didn't need. I think I bought like a ring and some earrings, and these were like diamonds, and I definitely didn't need that to buy that for myself.
I can relate to that. I definitely, especially after my college days, I was like, woohoo, I can get a credit card. And I went a little crazy with that credit card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's kind of the narrative. That's what they tell you that you're supposed to do. You got to get out of high school. You got to immediately go to college. And if you can't afford to just pay for college, which who can afford to pay for college fresh out of high school when you've maybe had a job, maybe not had a job, and so we were just doing what everybody was telling us to do. And I naturally am less of a risky person than I think Caleb is. And, they say opposites attract, and he's definitely more of a risk taker and was more comfortable with having debt and, using that as a tool. And I was kind of the other end of the spectrum. And I remember very vividly, we would fight about money, as most young couples or old couples do. And there was one time when Caleb wanted to purchase a jacket. It was just a jacket, and it was only $40. And I lost my mind over this jacket because I was like, we cannot afford this. This is way too much money for us to spend. How can you even dare to spend money on this jacket? Which sounds absolutely ridiculous, but when you're in debt and you're just struggling to, make ends meet, any little thing can feel like a big thing.
I totally agree with that. I definitely have had some moments like that in my life too, where, a spouse bought something that he wasn't supposed to, and we knew we only had $20 to our name, and he still went out and bought it.
I remember this story very vividly.
There was a shoe that was thrown in this. I threw it. So we relate to that for sure.
Yeah, it's common. It's super common. I think the figure was the number one cause of money fights and divorce are directly related to money issues and money arguments. So that was definitely true early on in our marriage. And the church we were going to came up and said that they were holding this class called Financial Peace University. And it was $100 to sign up for this class. And I knew that Caleb was not going to be into it. I just knew the words that were going to come out of his mouth. Why would I pay $100 to learn how to handle money? That sounds ridiculous. So I took it on myself to purchase and sign us up for the class. And then I broached the subject with him afterwards and said, hey, church is offering this class. How would you feel about going to it? And he's like, I don't know. I guess if you really want to. And I said, great, because I already signed us up. It starts next week. And
good for you. That's awesome.
Hindsight, that probably wasn't the best approach, for working together towards something, but it was the best $100 we ever spent. Because over the next, I believe it was an 8 or 9 week course, we really just learned how to work together, and how, getting out of debt and staying out of debt can really just help you use your money for things that actually matter. And so a little bit about the class. It's called Financial Peace University. Dave Ramsey is the guy. He's the guy that runs it. And
We're very familiar with Dave Ramsey. He teaches some great classes, has written some fantastic books, and I've read a couple of them.
Oh yeah, I think we've got every one of the books that he's written.
Wow.
In our library. Yeah, we went hard when we went the Dave route. So the whole idea behind it is following the baby steps is what it's called. Baby step 1 is get an emergency fund of $1,000, which we did very quickly. I think we might have even had the $1,000 already. The second step is to pay off all your debt. And that is typically the step that takes the longest. And the idea behind it, he calls it the debt snowball. And the idea is you would pay off your smallest debt and then the next smallest and the next up to the highest debt that you have. And a lot of people will say, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you pay off the one with the highest interest rate? And it's all emotional. Basically, is you want to get those quick wins. And that was really, really important for us in the beginning in order to really stay with the program. And
that's we're doing baby step number 2 right now also. And we've had some very quick wins in the beginning, and that's been awesome. And it does kind of build your confidence and go, oh yeah, like we can do this, and we can do this as a team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so you go through that process, and for us, we paid off $51,000 in 17 months, and we did that debt-free scream. And the idea behind the debt-free scream is he hosts a podcast or like a radio show similar to this, where he has people come on the show and they do kind of like this, tell a little bit about their story, and then at the end, they basically do that exact same thing. They say how much they paid off and how long it took them, and they are celebrating that they're debt-free. So we literally listened to that podcast every single day, and it was super encouraging and really just like kept us motivated the entire time.
Well, I think it's awesome that you guys were able to do it. I mean, I'm sure we have a variety of listeners and viewers out there that are probably wanting to know, what were some strategies that you used to, like, for example, did you have a budget that you worked towards, or how did you guys come up with those payments and knowing what you could pay towards your debt?
Yeah, so the budget is huge, definitely. We had an Excel spreadsheet. I think we had pen and paper for a while, and then we eventually switched over to Excel. But he calls it zero-based budgeting, where every dollar that comes in, you assign a name to it. Because if you don't, that money's going to go somewhere. You're either going to spend it out eating dinner at a restaurant, or you're going to stick it on your student loan. And then you're going to be disciplined and you're going to make food at home. So definitely doing the budget. We did the budget basically the day that we got paid, and we would make that payment, whether it was a student loan or the car, whatever we were paying on. We would make that payment that same day, because we knew that if we didn't make that payment on payday, something else was going to come up that wanted the money. And so those were really tough. There were many paychecks that were like that, $1,000. We were just putting it right onto the student loan, and that, when you're doing it, hurts, because you're like, I'm not really like, yes, I got the education, I've already graduated, but I'm not really getting it doesn't feel like you're getting anything when you're making that $1,000 payment every other week.
Yeah, we kind of feel that crunch sometimes. But we do. I mean, it's totally worth it. And obviously by your excitement and the freedom that you feel, it's obviously helped.
I'm interested in kind of some of the day-to-day logistics, because obviously you're making some sacrifices in that 17 months. And you mentioned going out to eat. Were there other sacrifices that you made in order to get to that place?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely stopped going out to eat when we looked at our budget and how much we were spending each month on eating out. It was an absurd amount of money. It was like $300 or $400 a month just on eating out. And it's like, you can buy a whole lot of groceries if you don't go to the restaurant 10 times a month. So that was really huge. That saved us a ton of money. Cooking at home. A lot of times people would want to invite us to do stuff. I mean, we were young. We had just gotten married. People wanted to go hang out or go to the bar. And I'm like, we can't. We already paid all of our money on our student loan. So definitely a lot of hanging out at home. And just like anything, there's always something that wants your money. There's always something that comes up. There might be a birthday, or there might be somebody's having a party, or Christmas comes up. And for most people, Christmas is a shock. Like it comes every single year at the same time. But the month before Christmas, you're like, oh, shoot, it's Christmas next month, and I have 30 people to buy for, So also, it taught us really how to plan in advance, like to sit down at the beginning of the month and look at the budget and say, okay, we know my dad's got a birthday next month, and so we need to budget whatever amount of money we're going to budget for that. And that was okay. It was okay as long as we had planned for it. And
do you feel that do you feel like you were deprived at all? Or do you feel that you guys did a good job of still having fun?
There were definitely times when it felt like we were deprived. Yeah, especially because, there's a whole social media culture. There's, your friends and family are going and doing stuff, or they're inviting you to things, and you're like, well, I think we're going to sit this one out. And you're making sacrifices along the way. And it feels during that time, it feels like, man, I'm so bored, and we have this extra money. We could be doing things, but we're choosing not to now so that we can live differently later. So
yeah. And 17 months in the grand scheme of your married life is a very short amount of time.
Very
but
short.
When you're in it, it probably feels a lot longer, and like you really are making some sacrifices. And I get that when you're young too. And we're in such an instant gratification sort of culture. We're just used to being able to go on Amazon and one-click buy things, and to have that thoughtfulness to think about that was probably really hard.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely was. But it set us up to do so many cool things. Like the third step in the baby steps is to save a 3 to 6 months emergency fund. And so for us, that was about $10,000. And it took us another year or so to save that much money up. But $10,000 is, if you're only using it for emergencies, like that can last so long. And you really got to get hit hard and hard and hard in order to go through that. So for example, right after we had our daughter, she was just a couple months old, we had to have our roof replaced, and that was going to be $6,000. And we just paid for it. Like, we didn't have to go get a loan. We didn't have to go do anything. We just had the money, and we just paid it. And that was it. And that was over. There was no drama after it. I mean, we were $6,000 less in our bank account, but it was okay. Like, we were fine, and we had a new roof.
Well, and you knew that you were going to be able to build up that $6,000 again.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Yeah, because we had done it before. And so we knew, that it was possible.
Andy, do we have any listener questions?
We do. We have one listener question here, which is a really, really good one, by the way. We didn't want to overload you, Breanna. Do you have any favorite money saving tips that you implemented?
Oh, money saving tips. There's all kinds of apps out there that say, the ones that like take your spare change from each transaction and they put it in. I don't love those. I think that being really intentional, and whether you can save $10 a paycheck or you can save $1,000 a paycheck, like, as long as you're saving, as long as you're putting something into savings and building that savings muscle, that's going to be the best thing that's going to serve you down the road.
I have a question. It's kind of off of that. Would you recommend, you do all your finances and you pay all your bills as soon as you get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Would you also at that point pay yourself and put that money directly into savings first before you do anything else? Or do you wait till the end of the month to see how much you have left?
No, we definitely do that on payday. So we'll go through, we get paid, we look, we pay whatever tithe or giving fund, whatever you're going to do, the mortgage, pay the bare necessities, and then how much money's left over, and what do we want to do with that? Is it going into a retirement fund? Is it going into Emma's college fund? Are we putting it right into our savings account? Are we saving up for something? Is there, a house project that we want to work on? And how much is that going to cost? And are we going to pull money out each paycheck for that? Are we going to put it in a separate bank account? Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Well, congratulations again on your accomplishment. I mean, that's a lot of money to pay off in a very short amount of time. And you guys should be very, very proud of yourselves. And it's awesome to see your journey because it's inspiring to everyone.
Absolutely. And I think, kind of in the realm of what we're talking about with real estate, it's a great way to build up down payment money, pay off your loan faster. I know that he is a big proponent of 15-year mortgages and, things that you can do to make your mortgage go away faster. So that kind of ties into a lot of what we talk about as well. So it was really exciting to have you here.
Yeah. And so, with this journey, it sounds like you have been able to open your own business. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing.
Yeah. So 2020 has been a heck of a year for a lot of different reasons. I have been in human resources for over 10 years at various different places. But when COVID hit, I got laid off. And this has really been a dream of mine for a long time, a lot of years. And it was sort of the perfect propulsion into it. But basically what I'm doing is helping small businesses with their HR needs. And a lot of times people think, what the heck does HR do? Aren't they just the department that fires people? But we do that. But that's not the only thing that we do.
I think you hire people too.
Yep. Hiring is definitely part of it. Benefits administration, that yearly performance review that you get, that's an HR function. Merit increases, whenever you get a raise, we're the ones back there putting it in the computer and usually telling your manager how much it is. Compensation reviews.
There's also different laws and things that, things change. And so you guys are on top of that as well. And I know that small businesses really, really need a consultant like you.
Yeah. And it's for the small business sector specifically, it's very expensive to hire an employee, period. But an HR professional, is $50,000, $60,000 a year. That doesn't include any benefits that you give them or pay time off or anything like that. That's just a base salary. And that can really add up to have someone sitting there at a desk. And typically a small business doesn't necessarily even need a full-time HR person. I can come in and help ensure you're in compliance, give you updates as laws change. If you want to build up a performance management plan, we can work with you on that and implement that kind of a thing. So there's lots of opportunity, and I think that it's a market that is underserved, and so it's really cool to be able to come in and help small businesses with their HR needs.
I think that that's awesome, and for sure, definitely needed. There's a lot of, I think you expect to see an HR person at like a large corporation, but you really don't see that at smaller businesses. And I think it's definitely needed. And there's all kinds of rules broken all over the place when people don't have that good advice.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tell us where people can find you.
Yeah. So my website is bstevenshr.com. Email bstevenshr@gmail.com. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram.
Well, I think it's very exciting that you were able to use your journey as a way to start your business. Congratulations. And Thank you so much for joining us today. And, we wish you the best. And thanks for taking time out of your busy day to be with us.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is all the time we have for today, but we have, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and realoregonlifestyle.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and see you next time.
Thank you.